Jinho Kim stood in the massive hangar bay of Orbital Defense Station Atlas 7, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. The station floated high above Earth, a joint military training facility where the best cadets from across the coalition came to learn. Around him, creatures from a dozen different worlds moved in groups, speaking in various languages. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost human, except for strange eyes or extra limbs. He adjusted his new uniform and checked his datapad for the third time. Orientation would begin in 10 minutes. Jinho was one of only 5 humans in a class of 200 cadets. Humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition just 50 years ago, and spots in prestigious academies like this were rare for his species. His parents had been so proud when he received his acceptance letter. The hangar stretched out like a small city. Ships of various designs sat in docking bays. Cadets gathered in clusters, most sticking with their own species. Jinho noticed a group of tall, reptilian aliens near the center of the hangar. They had dark green scales, powerful builds, and sharp teeth visible even when their mouths were closed. Kryn warriors, if he remembered his xenobiology classes correctly, they had a reputation for being aggressive and proud. Jinho started walking toward the assembly area marked on his map. He was looking down at his datapad, making sure he was going the right way. When it happened, he stepped sideways to avoid a floating cargo drone and bumped directly into something solid and warm. His datapad slipped from his hands and clattered on the metal floor. "Sorry," Jinho said immediately, bending down to pick up his device. When he stood up, he found himself staring at the chest of one of the Kryn warriors. Jinho took a step back and looked up. The alien towered over him, easily 7 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they could bend steel. His yellow eyes stared down at Jinho, with an expression that might have been surprise or anger. Jinho could not tell. "I apologize," Jinho said clearly in Standard Galactic, the common language used across Coalition space. "I was not watching where I was going." The Kryn tilted his head, and his eyes narrowed. Other cadets nearby stopped talking and turned to watch. Jinho felt his stomach tighten. Something was wrong, but he did not know what. "You bumped into me," the Kryn said, his voice deep and rough like grinding rocks. "Yes. I am sorry about that," Jinho repeated. He meant it sincerely. It had been his fault. The Kryn's scaled lips pulled back, showing more teeth. "You insult me with these simple words. Do you not know the proper way to apologize to a Kryn warrior?" Jinho blinked. No, I do not. I just arrived today. But I am genuinely sorry." Several other Kryn warriors moved closer, forming a semicircle behind their companion. The one Jinho had bumped into stepped forward. His name tag read, Vex Thor, in Standard Galactic script. "Ignorance is no excuse," Vex Thor said. "Among my people, when you offend a warrior, you must perform the ritual of submission. You bow, you speak the old words. You offer a token of respect. You do not just say sorry like a child." "I did not know," Jinho said carefully. "If you teach me the proper way, I will do it now." Vex Thor laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. "Now you want to learn?" After the insult, he looked at his friends, and they laughed too. "Humans. So weak. So ignorant. You do not belong here among true warriors." A few other alien cadets backed away, giving them space. Jinho saw a thin, blue-skinned instructor hurrying toward them. The instructor was a Teluxian, a species known for diplomacy and peacekeeping. "Cadets," the instructor called out. His name was Prilmon, according to his uniform badge. "There is no problem here. Just a small misunderstanding on the first day." Vex Thor ignored him. He stepped even closer to Jinho, looking down at the human with contempt. "You think you can just walk into warriors and walk away? You think your species matters here?" "I said I was sorry," Jinho replied quietly. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "Your sorry means nothing." Vex Thor's hand moved faster than Jinho expected. The backhand struck him across the face with tremendous force. Jinho's head snapped to the side, and he stumbled backward, almost falling. He caught himself and straightened up slowly. His lip was split, and he could taste blood in his mouth. His cheek burned where the scaled hand had connected. The hangar went completely silent. Every cadet, every instructor, every maintenance worker stopped and stared. Instructor Prilmon's blue skin went pale, his eyes wide with shock. Jinho touched his lip and looked at the blood on his fingers. Then, he looked up at Vex's Thor. The Kryn warrior was smiling, clearly satisfied with himself. His friends were grinning too, enjoying the display of dominance. Jinho wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. He took a slow breath and spoke in a calm, quiet voice that somehow carried across the silent hangar. "You should not have done that." Vex Thor laughed again. "What will you do, little human? Cry? Run to your instructors?" He turned to address the other cadets. "See? Humans are weak. They cannot even defend their honor. They do not belong in a warrior's academy. There's Attended. There's Elan." Some of the alien cadets looked uncomfortable. Others whispered to each other. Instructor Prilmon was speaking urgently into his communicator, calling for security. Jinho just stood there, still and quiet. He did not attack back. He did not shout or threaten. He simply stood with blood running down his chin and waited. There was something in his eyes, something calm and certain, that made a few of the watching aliens feel uneasy. Then the station's emergency systems activated. Red lights began flashing along the walls. A loud alarm blared 3 times, and then stopped. Automatic blast doors started closing over the hangar entrances. The massive main doors, designed to stay open during normal operations, began sliding shut with a deep grinding sound. "What is happening?" Vex Thor demanded, looking around. His smile faded. "Lockdown protocol," someone said. "The whole station is sealing." Instructor Prilmon looked at his communicator in confusion. "I did not authorize this. Who initiated lockdown?" End quote. Through the rapidly closing main hangar doors, 3 ships appeared. They were human military dropships, sleek and dark gray, moving at speeds that should not be allowed inside a station. They cut through the entry field and landed hard in the hangar bay with precise formation. The blast from their engines scattered loose equipment and made everyone shield their eyes. Before the ships even fully powered down, their doors opened. Soldiers in human military armor poured out, taking positions around the hangar. They moved with perfect coordination and deadly efficiency. Their weapons were not pointed at anyone, but they were ready. Then 3 figures walked down the main ramp of the center ship. They wore human general uniforms with enough medals and insignia to make it clear they were not just officers. They were commanders, leaders, people who made decisions that affected entire star systems. The entire hangar bay stared in shocked silence. Jinho stood there, with blood still dripping from his split lip, just as confused as everyone else. Instructor Prilmon's mouth hung open. Vex Thor's confident expression crumbled into uncertainty. One of the generals, a stern man with sharp features, walked directly toward Jinho. The other 2 followed. Their footsteps echoed in the silent hangar. Every eye in the massive space watched them approach the young human cadet who had been struck just minutes before. The first general stopped in front of Jinho and looked him over with experienced eyes that missed nothing. He saw the split lip, the blood, the bruise already forming on the pale human skin. "Cadet Kim," the general said. "Are you injured?" Jinho immediately stood at attention, despite his shock. "Minor injuries, sir." "I am fine, sir." The general nodded once. Then all 3 of them turned to look at Vex Thor. The Kryn warrior suddenly seemed much smaller than before. The second general, a woman with steel in her eyes and perfect posture, walked in a slow circle around the gathered cadets. Her gaze swept across each alien face like a targeting system. Nobody moved. Nobody even seemed to breathe. The human soldiers who had arrived with the generals maintained their positions around the hangar, creating a perimeter that made it very clear this situation was under their control now. The third general, quieter than the other two but somehow more frightening, pulled out a small device from his belt. He held it up, and a hologram appeared in the air above it. Security footage from the hangar started playing. Everyone could see it clearly. Jinho, bumping into Vex Thor. The conversation. The backhand that sent the human cadet stumbling. It played once, then looped, and played again. The first general spoke again, his voice carrying authority that made even the Kryn warriors stand straighter. I am General Minho Park, of the Terran Strategic Command. This is General Heiji Kwan of Naval Fleet Operations, and General Doyun Che of Special Operations Intelligence Division. He gestured to each of his companions. We are here regarding an assault on a Terran citizen. The station's commander, a tall alien with 4 arms and purple skin named Wing Marshal Thexul, pushed through the crowd of cadets. He wore the insignia of Coalition Command and looked both confused and angry. General Park, Thexul said, trying to sound firm. What is the meaning of this? You cannot just storm onto my station with military forces and initiate lockdown procedures. This is a coalition facility, not Terran territory. You have no authority here. General Kwan turned to face him. When she spoke, her voice was cold enough to freeze water. We have every authority. A human citizen under your protection was assaulted. The Terran Compact is very clear about what happens next. It was a minor altercation between cadets, Thexul protested, though his voice had less confidence now. These things happen in military training. A small fight, nothing more. A fight? General Che spoke for the first time, his voice quiet and precise. Cadet Kim did not fight. He was struck without provocation after offering a sincere apology. That is not a fight. That is assault. Thexul's 4 arms gestured in frustration. This is ridiculous. Are you truly going to lock down an entire orbital station because one cadet hit another? We have 200 students here, staff, important research. You are disrupting everything. General Park did not raise his voice. But everyone heard him clearly. This base is now under Terran military jurisdiction, pending investigation. The lockdown will remain in effect until we are satisfied that justice has been served and that proper protocols are in place to prevent future incidents. Several alien instructors started talking at once. Some protested, others tried to explain. A few simply looked terrified. The Kryn cadets grouped together. With Vex Thor in the middle, he no longer looked proud or confident. He looked like someone who just realized he made a terrible mistake but did not understand why it was so terrible. General Kwan raised one hand, and everyone fell silent. Let me make something very clear to all of you. When you accepted human cadets into this program, you accepted responsibility for their safety. That responsibility was violated today. Until we determine how and why, nothing else matters. But the Kryn culture, one of the instructors began. We are aware of Kryn culture, General Che interrupted softly. We are aware of many cultures represented here. That is irrelevant. This is a coalition facility operating under coalition law, which strictly prohibits physical violence outside of authorized training exercises. More importantly, it is a facility housing Terran citizens, which means it falls under the protection clauses of the Terran Compact. Jinho stood very still, trying to understand what was happening. He had heard of the Terran Compact in school, but it had seemed like a boring legal document, something governments cared about but regular people did not think about. Now 3 generals were on a space station because of him. It felt unreal. A small alien cadet, barely 4 feet tall with fur and large eyes, whispered to her companion loud enough for others to hear. I heard stories about humans, about what they do when one of their people gets hurt. Quiet, her companion hissed back, but others were whispering too now. General Park walked slowly toward Vex Thor. The Kryn warrior tried to stand proud, but his eyes showed fear. The two other Kryn cadets who had been with him stepped aside, leaving Vex Thor alone. "What is your name, cadet?" General Park asked. "Vex Thor of Clan Sharpclaw," the Kryn answered. His voice tried to sound strong, but came out uncertain. "Vex Thor, do you understand what you have done? I struck another cadet for disrespecting me," Vex Thor said. "In my culture, your culture does not matter here." General Quan cut him off. Her words were sharp as knives. "You are not on your homeworld. You are on a coalition station. You will follow coalition rules. More importantly, you struck a human. Do you understand what that means?" Vex Thor looked confused. "He is just one cadet. One person. I did not kill him. It was a simple strike to teach respect." General Che moved forward. He was shorter than the other two generals, but something about him made everyone nervous. "One person?" he repeated quietly. "Just one. That is where you are wrong. That is where every species who has made this mistake has been wrong. No." He pulled out another device and projected a different hologram. It showed a star map with various systems marked. Red zones spread across several sectors. 50 years ago, humanity joined the coalition, General Che said. In that time, we have fought 3 major conflicts: the Hackor-Slaver War, the pirate campaigns in the Outer Rim, the territorial disputes with the Vrex Dominion. Do you know why we fought these wars? 1. Nobody answered. Everyone just stared at the map. We fought because in each case, humans were harmed. The Hackor took 12 of our people as slaves. 12 individuals out of 8 billion humans on Earth, and 5 billion more, spread across our colonies. Just 12 people. Do you know what happened to the Hackor? Vex Thor shook his head slowly. They no longer exist as an independent civilization, General Quan said. Their government was dismantled. Their slaver lords were tried and imprisoned. Their entire society was restructured. All of this for 12 humans. The pirates killed 7 humans in a raid, General Park continued. We hunted every pirate group in 4 sectors. It took 3 years. When we were done, piracy in the Outer Rim had dropped by 94%. The Vrex thought they could take a human colony world through intimidation, General Che added. They fired on civilian targets. Killed 38 people. The war lasted 6 months. The Vrex lost 20 star systems, and their military fleet was reduced to 1/3 its original size. The hologram changed, showing images from these conflicts. Destroyed ships, occupied planets, trials. The faces of human soldiers, determined and relentless. Do you see the pattern? General Park asked Vex Thor directly. Do you understand what makes humanity different from other species you have met? Vex Thor's voice came out as barely a whisper. You fight. For individuals, we do not just fight for them, General Quan said. We will do anything for them. Every single human life is sacred to all of humanity. When you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. That is the Terran Compact. That is what makes us human. Wing Marshal Thexul had gone completely silent. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. Around the hangar, the other alien cadets and instructors began to understand. This was not an overreaction. This was not politics or military posturing. This was something fundamental about how humans saw the world and each other. General Che looked at Jinho, who still stood at attention with dried blood on his chin. Sir, I am really fine, Jinho started. That was not a request, Cadet. Medical bay. Now. Yes, sir. Jinho saluted and walked toward the exit, escorted by 2 human soldiers. As he passed by groups of alien cadets, they stepped back and watched him go. The human who had been slapped. The human who brought 3 generals and locked down an entire space station. When Jinho was gone, General Park turned back to address everyone in the hangar. His voice carried to every corner of the massive space. Let me be absolutely clear. This situation can end peacefully, with appropriate consequences and policy changes. Or, it can become an interstellar incident that none of you want to experience. The choice is yours. But the one choice you do not have is pretending this did not happen. General Quan pulled out a datapad. We will be conducting interviews with all witnesses. We will be reviewing all security footage. We will be examining station policies regarding cadet safety. And we will be having a very long conversation with Kryn diplomatic representatives. In the meantime, General Che said softly, everyone remains on station. No ships leave. No communications go out without our approval. This base is sealed until we are satisfied. The three generals turned and walked back toward their ships, leaving their soldiers in position. Wing Marshal Thexul stood frozen, watching them go. Around him, 200 cadets from a dozen worlds stood in shocked silence. All of them learning the same lesson. Never touch a human. Not even one. Because you will answer to all of them. Vex Thor sat in a small holding room deep inside the station. It was not a prison cell, exactly, but it was not comfortable either. Just a table, 3 chairs, and walls covered with sound-dampening panels. A guard stood outside the single door. The Kryn warrior had been sitting there for 2 hours, alone with his thoughts and growing fear. The door opened, and the 3 human generals entered. They moved with calm purpose, taking seats across from him. General Che placed a datapad on the table between them. The screen showed text and images that Vex's Thor could not read from his angle. Do you know why you are here? General Park asked. Vex Thor's clawed hands clenched and unclenched on his knees. I struck the human cadet. But it was not meant to be serious. Among my people, such strikes are common. They teach respect. They establish order. It is how warriors communicate. You keep mentioning your people, General Quan said. Your culture. I did not mean to cause this situation, Vex Thor said, and for the first time his voice cracked slightly. I thought I was teaching a lesson. I thought humans understood warrior cultures. How was I supposed to know you would react this way? General Che turned the datapad around so Vex's Thor could see the screen. Then let me educate you. Let me explain exactly why humanity reacts the way we do when one of our people is harmed. Perhaps if you understand our history, you will understand our present. The screen showed old images of Earth. Cities in ruins. Wastelands where forests used to grow. Skeletons of buildings reaching toward dark skies. This is Earth in the 21st century, General Park said. Our world, our home. For most of human history, we were divided into hundreds of nations, thousands of ethnic groups, countless tribes and factions. We fought each other constantly. Wars over land, resources, religion, ideology. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, things designed specifically to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. The images changed. Mushroom clouds, radiation victims, mass graves, children crying in destroyed hospitals. We nearly destroyed ourselves. General Quan continued. Several times. We came within minutes of total nuclear war on multiple occasions. Billions of people lived under the constant threat that tomorrow might be the day their civilization ended. We poisoned our air, our water, our soil. We committed genocides against our own species. We turned parts of our world into places where nothing could live. Vex Thor stared at the images. His species had wars too, but nothing like this. The Kryn fought for honor and territory, but they did not try to exterminate each other. They did not develop weapons meant to kill everyone. Why are you showing me this? He asked quietly. Because you need to understand what came next, General Che said. He changed the images. Now they showed different scenes. People of various Earth ethnicities working together. Cities being rebuilt. Green returning to wastelands. In 2095, after centuries of war and decades of near extinction, humanity achieved something remarkable. We made peace, not just between 2 nations or 3 factions. All of us. Every nation on Earth agreed to a permanent peace treaty. But peace treaties are broken all the time, Thor said. Every species signs them. They last until one side finds advantage in breaking them. No. 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 Not this one, General Park said firmly. Because this treaty was different. It was not just an agreement between governments. It was a fundamental change in how humans saw themselves. We stopped thinking of ourselves as separate nations, separate peoples. We started thinking of ourselves as one species, one family. The datapad now showed a long document written in multiple Earth languages. The Terran Compact. After achieving world peace, humanity created this, General Quan explained. The Terran Compact. Every nation signed it. Every government ratified it. It became the core principle of human civilization. Do you know what it says? Thor shook his head. General Che read from the document. An assault on one human is an assault on all humanity. A threat to one is a threat to all. Every human life is sacred to the entire species. We will never again allow our people to suffer violence without response. We will never again stand by while injustice is done to any member of our family. This is our promise to each other and to future generations. But that is impossible, Thor said. You cannot care about every single individual. There are billions of you. That is exactly what makes us different from you, General Park said. And there was pride in his voice now. Other species see individuals as parts of a whole. Expendable. Replaceable. If you lose a few, the species goes on. So, what does it matter? But humans learned the hard way. That every single person matters. Every life lost is a tragedy. Every person harmed diminishes all of us. General Quan leaned forward. When you struck Cadet Kim, you did not just hurt one trainee at an academy. You declared aggression against 8 billion humans on Earth, 5 billion in the colonies, and every human serving across coalition space. You made 13 billion enemies in one moment. The Kryn warrior's scales had gone pale. His yellow eyes were wide. I was just teaching respect. It was a minor strike. He is not even badly injured. The severity of the injury does not matter, General Che said coldly. The intent does not matter. The cultural context does not matter. What matters is that you harmed a human. That is the line you crossed. That is why 3 generals dropped everything to come here. That is why this station is locked down. Because if we let even one assault go unanswered, we betray the compact. And we betray every human who died in our old wars. We betray the peace we built. The images on the datapad changed again. Now they showed more recent events. Human military forces in action. Ships engaging enemy fleets. Soldiers fighting on alien worlds. You asked how you were supposed to know we would react this way, General Park said. You should have researched the species you would be training with. You should have learned our history, because it is no secret. The Hakor slavers learned. The pirates learned. The Vreks learned. Everyone who has harmed humans has learned this lesson. Most of them learned the hard way. 1841. The Hakor took 12 humans, General Quan said, pointing to images of the conflict. They thought humans would negotiate, maybe pay a ransom, and move on. Instead, we mobilized 6 full battle fleets. We tracked down every Hakor slaver ship. We liberated every slave. Not just the humans. We tried every commander involved. The Hakor civilization as it existed was dismantled completely. All for 12 people. But that is insane, Thor protested. The cost of such a war, the resources, the time, the risk, all for 12 individuals? How is that logical? It is not about logic, General Che replied. It is about values. It is about what we decided we are as a species. We decided that no human is expendable. We decided that the cost does not matter. If you take one of us, we will spend whatever it takes to get them back, and to ensure you never do it again. Vex Thor put his head in his hands. His claws dug into his scaled skin. I did not know. I truly did not know. Now you do, General Park said. Now you understand what you triggered. The question is, what happens next? Are you going to execute me? Vex Thor asked, looking up with fear in his eyes. Start a war with my people? Destroy my clan? General Quan actually smiled slightly, though it was not a warm expression. No. Because, despite what you might think, humans are not mindless vengeance seekers. We are not monsters. We respond to aggression with overwhelming force, yes, but we also understand the difference between malicious intent and cultural ignorance. Cadet Kim himself said he believes this was a misunderstanding, General Che added. He does not want your life. He wants assurance it will not happen again. To him or to any other cadet. Then what? Vex Thor asked. What will you do to me? Okay. That is being decided now, General Park said, standing up. The other two generals stood as well. Diplomatic representatives from your homeworld are being contacted. Coalition leadership is involved, and we are considering Cadet Kim's wishes. He gets a voice in this because he is the victim. But understand this clearly, General Quan said, her voice hard again. If you ever raise your hand to another human, if you ever harm one of our people again, there will be no second chances. The next time, you will learn what it means to face humanity's full response. Pray you never have to learn that lesson, General Che said quietly as they walked toward the door. The three generals left Vex Thor alone in the room. The Kryn warrior sat there for a long time, staring at the datapad they had left behind. The images continued cycling through Earth's violent history and its hard-won peace. Through the wars, humanity fought to protect its people. Through the faces of humans, all different colors and features, united by one simple idea. They were family. All of them. And family protected each other. Vex Thor finally understood why the station was locked down. Why 3 generals came. Why everyone was terrified. He had not just hit a cadet. He had attacked the entire human species, and he was incredibly lucky that they were willing to show mercy. He looked at his own clawed hands, the same hands that struck Jinho Kim. They were shaking. Vex Thor, proud Kryn warrior of Clan Sharpclaw, was shaking with fear and shame, because he had learned something today that every species in the coalition would eventually learn. Humans were not weak. Their greatest strength was not their technology or their military skill. Their greatest strength was each other. And anyone who forgot that would pay a terrible price. The medical bay on Station Atlas 7 was quiet, except for the soft beeping of monitors. Jinho sat on an examination table, while a medical robot applied healing gel to his split lip. The bruise on his cheek had already been treated with advanced medicine that would make it fade within a day. Physically, he would be fine. Mentally, he was still trying to process what had happened. A knock came at the door. Before Jinho could respond, it opened, and 2 alien cadets entered hesitantly. One was a Kelthian, named Mira, a species with 4 arms and pale blue skin. The other was an Athon called Taemin, who looked almost human except for his silver eyes and the fact that he was completely hairless. Both of them looked nervous. "Can we come in?" Mira asked quietly. "Sure," Jinho said. He hopped off the examination table. The medical robot finished with its work. "What is going on out there? I have been stuck in here for hours." "The entire station is still locked down," Taemin said, closing the door behind them. "No one can leave. No ships can dock, except human military vessels. Wing Marshal Thexul is in constant meetings with coalition leadership. Everyone is scared." "Scared?" Jinho repeated. "Why would everyone be scared? Vex Thor is the one who hit me. He should be worried. Not everyone else." Mira's 4 hands twisted together nervously. "You really do not know do you? You do not understand what your people are like, what they are capable of. What do you mean? Taman moved closer and lowered his voice, even though they were alone. We have been hearing stories since humans joined the coalition. Stories about what happens when someone hurts a human, about the vengeance of soul, about entire civilizations being brought down because they harmed your people. That sounds like exaggeration, Jinho said, though he remembered what the generals had told Vex Thor. The images of wars fought over small numbers of humans. It is not, Mira insisted. My people keep extensive historical records. We study all coalition member species. Do you know about the Hakor slavers? I heard about them today for the first time, Jinho admitted. Mira settled into a chair, her forearms gesturing as she spoke. The Hakor were a minor power, but they controlled several profitable trade routes. They used slave labor, which was technically illegal under coalition law, but enforcement was weak. Many species knew about it, but did not care enough to stop it. Then, the Hakor made a mistake. They raided a human merchant vessel and took the crew for forced labor. 12 people. Quote, that is what the generals said, Jinho confirmed. What they did not tell you is what happened next, Taman said, sitting down as well. The human government demanded the immediate return of their citizens. The Hakor refused. They said it would make them look weak to their own people. They thought humans would eventually negotiate and pay a ransom. That is how these things usually work in the galaxy. Someone gets captured. You pay to get them back. Everyone moves on. But humans did not negotiate, Mira continued. They sent an ultimatum. Return our people within 72 hours or face military action. The Hakor laughed. They could not believe humans would start a war over 12 individuals out of billions. Jinho felt cold suddenly. What happened when the ultimatum expired? 6 human battle fleets entered Hakor space. Taman said quietly. Not just a few ships. 6 full fleets. Hundreds of vessels. They blockaded every major Hakor world. They disabled every military installation. They systematically tracked down every single slave ship in Hakor territory. And they did not stop until every slave, not just the humans, was freed. The war lasted 3 months, Mira added. When it was over, the Hakor civilization as it existed was gone. Their government was dissolved. Their military was dismantled. Every person involved in the slave trade was tried and punished. The humans restructured their entire society. All for 12 people, Taman repeated. Do you understand? That is not how other species think. If the Kelthian government lost 12 citizens, they would be sad. They would protest. But they would not go to war. The cost would be too high compared to the benefit. But humans do not think that way. To your species, those 12 lives were worth any cost. Jinho sat down slowly on the examination table again. I never thought about it like that. I just grew up knowing that Earth was peaceful now. That humanity was united. I did not realize what that really meant. It means you are all connected in a way that other species are not, Mira said. My people care about each other. But there are limits. If saving 1 Kelthian would cost 10 Kelthian lives, we would not do it. The math does not work. But humans rejected that math. You decided every life has infinite value. That is terrifying to other species, Taman said, because it means you cannot be predicted. You cannot be reasoned with using normal logic. If someone harms a human, they cannot calculate whether the cost of your response will be worth it to you. Because to you, there is no cost too high. A soft chime indicated someone else was at the door. It opened, and a medical officer entered, but not an alien one. This was a human woman in a military medical uniform. She saluted Jinho, which made him feel incredibly awkward. Cadet Kim, I am Dr. Saman Han. I am here to perform a follow-up examination and to brief you on the current situation. I feel fine, really, Jinho said. The robot already treated me. Standard protocol, Dr. Han said professionally. She pulled out a scanning device and checked his vitals, then examined his lip and cheek. Good. Healing properly. You will be fully recovered within a day. She put away her equipment and looked at him seriously. Now, the briefing. Are you aware of why the generals are here? They came because I got hit, because of the Terran Compact. Correct. What you may not know is that your case has escalated rapidly. Diplomatic communications are happening at the highest levels between the human government, the Coalition Council, and the Kryn homeworld. There are protests on Earth demanding justice, news coverage across human space. You have become the center of a major incident. I did not want any of this, Jinho said. It was just a slap. I am fine. I do not need 3 generals and a lockdown. It is not about what you want, Dr. Han said, not unkindly. It is about what the assault represents. A violation of coalition law. A breach of the protection we extend to all humans. A test of whether humanity will uphold the compact. Mira spoke up hesitantly. Cadet Kim, can I ask you something? Do you want Vex Thor punished? Do you want revenge? Jinho thought about it. He remembered the fear in Vex Thor's eyes when the generals confronted him. The Kryn warrior had been arrogant and cruel, yes. But he also seemed genuinely shocked by the response, like he truly had not understood what he was doing. I think he made a mistake, Jinho said slowly. A really bad mistake. But I do not think he meant to start an interstellar incident. He was just being a bully. I have dealt with bullies before. I do not want him executed, or his whole civilization punished because of me. That is very merciful of you, Taemin said. But does humanity listen to individual victims? Or do they have their own agenda? The victims' wishes matter, Dr. Han said. The generals will take Cadet Kim's statement into account, but they also have to consider the larger implications. If we do not respond strongly enough, other species might think they can harm humans without serious consequences. That invites more violence. If you respond too strongly, other species will fear you too much to work with you, Mira pointed out. Perhaps, Dr. Han acknowledged. That is why these decisions are made by people with far more experience than us. General Park, General Quan, and General Che are not warmongers. They are strategists. They understand that sometimes mercy serves humanity better than vengeance. The door chimed again. This time, when it opened, General Che himself entered. Everyone immediately stood at attention. The general waved them to sit. At ease. Cadet Kim, I need your formal statement about what happened. The truth. In your own words. Your testimony will be part of the official record. Jinho told the story, bumping into Vex Thor, the confusion about cultural protocols, the insults, and then the slap. He tried to be fair, mentioning that Vex Thor seemed to think he was following some kind of warrior code. General Che listened without interrupting, recording everything. When Jinho finished, the general asked, Do you want to press charges? Under coalition law, you have that right. What would happen to him if I did? He would face a military tribunal, possible expulsion from the academy, criminal charges, imprisonment, most likely. And if I do not press charges, that does not mean he faces no consequences. The assault still happened. Coalition authorities and the Kryn government will still be involved. But your statement that you do not seek severe punishment will carry weight. Jinho thought about the images of war he had glimpsed. The destroyed ships, the occupied worlds, all because someone had hurt humans. He thought about his parents on Earth, probably hearing about this on the news, worried about him. He thought about Vex Thor, sitting in that holding room, terrified. I do not want to press charges, Jinho said. I want him to understand that what he did was wrong. I want rules in place so it does not happen again. But I do not want his life destroyed. General Che nodded once. Your mercy does you credit, Cadet Kim. I will convey your wishes to the Command Council. However, understand that some form of justice must be served. The compact demands it. I understand, sir. Good. General Che turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Your compassion in this situation demonstrates exactly why humanity is worth protecting. Every single one of us. Remember that. After the general left, Taemin let out a long breath. Your people came here ready for war, and you just asked for mercy. I do not understand humans. Maybe that is the point, Mira said thoughtfully. They are ready for war, so they can choose peace. They are strong enough that they can afford to be kind. Jinho looked at his alien friends and smiled slightly, even though it pulled at his healing lip. We just try to do what is right. For all of us. 3 days after the incident, Station Atlas 7 finally returned to normal operations. The lockdown was lifted. The human military forces withdrew, though everyone knew they were only a few hours away if needed. The 3 generals had departed, but their presence still lingered like an echo in every corridor. Nothing would ever be quite the same. The main assembly hall was packed with every cadet, instructor, and staff member on the station. Wing Marshal Thexul stood at the podium, looking tired. Behind him were representatives from the Coalition Council, Kryn, Diplomatic Corps, and Human Government. Everyone waited in tense silence for the announcement. After extensive discussions and negotiations, Thexul began, his forearms gesturing formally. We have reached a resolution regarding the incident between Cadet Vex Thor and Cadet Jinho Kim. The decisions made here will set precedent for all Coalition training facilities moving forward. He gestured to a Kryn ambassador, who stepped forward. She was older than Vex Thor, with darker scales and ceremonial markings that showed high rank. She spoke in standard Galactic, but her voice carried the rough tones of her species. On behalf of the Kryn clans, I offer formal apology to Cadet Kim, to humanity, and to the Coalition. Vexus Thor's actions were born of ignorance, not malice, but ignorance is no excuse for violation of law and common decency. We acknowledge that our cultural practices do not supersede Coalition regulations or the rights of other species. The hall remained silent. Everyone watched Jinho, who sat in the front row. He nodded once, accepting the apology. Cadet Vex Thor will face consequences, the ambassador continued. He will issue a personal apology. He will complete 200 hours of community service under supervision. He will attend mandatory cultural education courses. Most importantly, he will serve as an example to all Kryn who enter Coalition space. Violence is not honor. Understanding is not weakness. Another figure stood from the back of the hall. Vex Thor walked forward slowly. He looked different than before. Smaller somehow, despite his size. His eyes were downcast. When he reached the front, he turned to face Jinho directly. Jinho Kim, Vex Thor said, and his voice shook slightly. I owe you an apology that words cannot fully express. I struck you out of pride and ignorance. I thought I was teaching you respect. But I was the one who lacked respect. I did not respect you as an individual. I did not respect your species. I did not respect the laws we all agreed to follow here. He took a deep breath. I have learned much in these past 3 days. About humans, about the Terran Compact, about what it means to truly value life. I was taught that strength comes from dominance. But you showed me that strength comes from protecting others. I was taught that warriors prove themselves through violence. But your generals showed me that true warriors choose when to fight and when to show mercy. Vex Thor extended his large, clawed hand toward Jinho. Not in threat this time, but in the human gesture of peace. I ask for your forgiveness. I do not deserve it, but I ask anyway, and I promise you, on my clan's honor, that I will never again raise my hand in anger to someone who does not deserve it. I will learn from this. I will be better. Jinho stood and looked at the offered hand. Around the hall, Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds watched to see what the human would do. Mira and Taemin sat nearby, holding their breath. Even the ambassadors and Wing Marshal Thexul waited. Jinho reached out and took Vex Thor's hand. The Kryn's grip was careful, almost delicate, afraid of hurting the smaller human. They shook hands. In the human way, "I forgive you," Jinho said clearly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them. I think you have." Relief washed over Vex Thor's scaled face. Some of the other Kryn cadets in the audience visibly relaxed. The tension that had gripped the station for 3 days began to ease. Just slightly. Wing Marshal Thexul spoke again. In addition to the consequences for Cadet Vex Thor, the following changes will be implemented across all Coalition training facilities, effective immediately. First, mandatory cultural education for all cadets, covering the values, laws, and customs of every Coalition species. No one can claim ignorance again. He continued through a long list. Enhanced security protocols. Clear reporting procedures for any form of harassment or violence. Regular training on conflict resolution. Creation of a multi-species advisory board to handle cultural disputes before they escalated. All policies that should have existed from the beginning, but took a crisis to implement. Finally, Thexul said, "I want to acknowledge what we learned from this incident. The human response was not overreaction. It was a demonstration of values we should all aspire to. The idea that every individual matters. That violence against one is violence against all. That protection of the vulnerable is not weakness, but strength. Humanity has taught the Coalition an important lesson. We should be grateful they did so with words and diplomacy rather than weapons." When the assembly ended, cadets filed out in small groups, talking in hushed tones. Jinho found himself surrounded by curious aliens, wanting to talk to him. Some apologized for not intervening during the incident. Others asked questions about human culture. A few just wanted to say they were glad he was okay. Mira pushed through the crowd with Taemin right behind her. "That was brave," she said. "Forgiving him publicly like that. Not everyone could do it." "It was the right thing to do," Jinho said with a shrug. "Holding a grudge helps no one." "Your people came ready to tear down the station to protect you," Taemin pointed out. "And you responded with mercy." "That is a contradiction I do not understand." "It is not a contradiction," came a new voice. General Park walked up, having stayed for the assembly. He smiled slightly at Jinho. "It is the entire point. Humanity is strong enough to protect everyone, so we can afford to be compassionate. We are united enough that one of us can show mercy, knowing all of us will back them up if needed. That is what the compact means. Not just vengeance, but justice. Not just strength, but wisdom." "Will things really change?" Mira asked. "Or will this all be forgotten?" "In a few months, things will change," General Park said with certainty. "Because every species here now knows what happens if they do not. They know humanity will respond to violence against our people. They also know we prefer education to punishment, understanding to revenge. Both lessons are valuable." Over the following months, Station Atlas 7 became different. The mandatory cultural classes started, and cadets learned about species they had never thought to understand before. Jinho found himself giving presentations about Earth history and the Terran Compact. Other humans throughout the Coalition did the same at other facilities. The phrase, "do not touch the humans," spread across Coalition space, but it evolved. At first, it was said with fear, then with respect. Eventually, with understanding. Humans were not untouchable because they were fragile. They were protected because they had decided, as an entire species, that every single life mattered. And other species began to wonder why they did not think the same way. Jinho and Vex's Thor ended up in many of the same training classes. At first, it was awkward. The Kryn warrior clearly felt guilty every time he saw the human. But slowly, they began to talk. Vex Thor asked questions about human culture. Jinho asked about Kryn traditions. They trained together in the combat simulators, learning each other's fighting styles. 6 months after the incident, their class faced graduation. Everyone had passed the rigorous training. They stood in formation in the same hangar where Vex Thor had struck Jinho. The irony was not lost on anyone. Wing Marshal Thexul gave a speech about unity and understanding. Coalition officials awarded them their ranks and assignments. When Jinho received his posting, he saw that Vex Thor had been assigned to the same ship. They would serve together on a patrol vessel monitoring disputed space. Mira and Taemin were also assigned to the same crew. The 4 of them, along with cadets from 6 other species, would make up the crew of a small but advanced coalition frigate. After the ceremony, General Park approached Jinho one last time. "Your first assignment. How do you feel?" "Nervous," Jinho admitted. "But ready. I think we all are. You handled yourself well these past months. You showed wisdom beyond your years. That is why you are here." General Park paused. "Remember what I told you. You represent humanity out there. Every action you take reflects on all of us." "No pressure," Jinho joked weakly. The general smiled. "You will be fine. You already understand what matters. Take care of your crew. Protect each other. The species' differences do not matter as much as the bonds you build." As General Park walked away, Vex Thor approached. The Kryn looked nervous. "I saw we are assigned together." "Yeah. Is that okay with you?" "It is more than okay. It is an honor. I hope I can prove worthy of your trust." "You already have," Jinho said honestly. "You learned. You changed. You became better. That is all anyone can ask." Mira and Taemin joined them. The 4 stood together, looking at their new ship docked in the hangar. It was not the biggest vessel, but it was theirs. Their first real assignment after months of training. "Are you scared?" Mira asked. "Out there in real space, facing real situations?" "A little," Jinho admitted. "But I am not alone." Taemin nodded. "That is what I learned from all this. My people value knowledge and wisdom, but we studied humans and missed the most important lesson. It is not about being the smartest or strongest. It is about being there for each other. We protect each other now," Vex Thor said, placing his large clawed hand carefully on Jinho's shoulder. The touch was gentle, respectful, a stark contrast to 6 months ago. "That is what you humans taught us. All of us are stronger together than any of us are alone." They boarded their ship as the sun rose over the planet below, visible through the massive hangar windows. 4 cadets from 4 different worlds, united by shared experience and new understanding. Behind them, Station Atlas 7 continued its mission of training coalition officers. But now it did so with new rules, new awareness, and new respect for the value of every individual. The story of the human cadet and the 3 generals became legend throughout coalition space. Parents told it to their children. Teachers used it in classes. Diplomats referenced it in negotiations. And every time someone considered violence against another being, they remembered. Humanity had shown the galaxy something revolutionary. Not that every species should become human, but that every species should consider what humanity had learned through pain and war and near extinction. That individuals matter. That protection of the vulnerable is the mark of the strong. That unity means caring for each and every member, not just the collective. As their ship left the station and entered the vast darkness of space, Jinho looked at his crew, his friends, his family now. In a way, they came from different worlds, different cultures, different evolutionary paths, but they shared something important now. They understood that strength came not from dominance but from solidarity, that the most powerful force in the galaxy was not weapons or technology or territory. It was the simple revolutionary idea that every life had value, and that value was worth protecting. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but together, they would face it. just as humanity faced its challenges. Just as all species could, if they chose to see each other not as competitors but as family. One human cadet had been struck. 3 generals had responded, and an entire galaxy had learned to be better. That was the legacy of Jinho Kim. Not a victim, but a teacher. Not a crisis, but an opportunity. Not the end of something, but the beginning of a better way forward. For humanity. For the coalition. For everyone.